and she has agreed to allow me to post this video publicly so anybody can learn from this process. I learned this from Amber from Psychopomp of the Void, and she learned it in turn from Rochelle on Amethyst Ascension. And she morphed it a little bit to suit her needs. I might morph mine just a little bit as well. I am going to have timestamps in this video because it will be a very long one, and that way you can watch one chapter of it at a time and then come back to the next chapter where you left off. And all of the decks that I use will be listed in the description below as well. And there will be a lot of decks that are being used. This is the initiation. This is step 1 of the process, and it's called the initiation. The overarching view of the life, the narrative, the vibe, the story outline. This gives a major overview of the spiritual journey of the past life or the parallel life and the experiences or things that were experienced. We're going to start off with a Portals of Presence card just to kind of get a vibe on who this person might have been, who Shandy's previous life may have been. So Shandi, your previous persona wouldn't necessarily have looked like this, the card that I'm about to draw, but there will be something captured within this image that will kind of grab the essence of your previous self or parallel self. Isn't something that you necessarily look like, could even not even be the same gender, but there's just going to be something within this image that captures the essence of who you were. And just for expedience sake, even though this life reading may be a parallel life, I am going to use a past tense. We will get to time frame later, so we can find out exactly when this incarnation of you took place, but for right now, we're going to assume this is the past. Okay, who was Shandi in this past incarnation? What did she look like? What was it? Something about her persona. Give us a glimpse into her persona with one of these cards here, Spirit. What do we have? This is the card that we get. These are meant to be read intuitively. And so what I'm getting intuitively off of this particular piece of art is that it was somebody who was a seeker, somebody who was a seeker of the light, somebody who was the seeker of inspiration. So now we're going to do the hero or heroine spread from the Wild Unknown archetypes. And so we're going to get 5 cards from this deck here. And this is going to give us an idea of your journey in that previous incarnation. Okay, so what was the call? What was the call? What was your inner voice, the agitation, the dissatisfaction, or the inspiration that prompted you to courageously embark on a new journey? What was the call? What was the call? Okay, we had too many come over. But I'm going to take the first, when a whole bunch flip over, I'm going to take the top one. So we get the mystic. And that fits in with this image to me of this person. The call was the mystic. I'll read a little bit more about these cards in a moment. What was the threshold? The obstacle to your leaving, the habit that wanted to hold you back. Something that possibly has held you back many times in many incarnations. Maybe it's something that's held you back in this current life. What was the threshold, the obstacle to your leaving? we get the creator. What was the ordeal, the deeply profound challenge or dilemma that you will face along the way during this incarnation? The lurking shadow that is revealed for your growth. What was the ordeal of this lifetime? What was your main ordeal of this lifetime? Okay, first thing we got was the storm, and then the boon. What was the reward? The wisdom, the skill, or blessing that you attained. The gift that is mystical by nature and can be found in the mundane. You receive the venom. Return. What you can expect to encounter upon your return. The homecoming impacts your ability to integrate meaningful change. Prepare yourself. What you can expect to encounter upon your return. What could Shandi expect upon her return to her next incarnation? What was the homecoming, the return? Something that, and we got the sustainer. Okay, so let's look at these. Okay, so these are, a few of these are all in the same area. The mystic. I'll show this to you so that you can take a kind of a screenshot of this if you'd like. The mystic is the seeker, the light worker, the dreamer. The mystic is often misunderstood in our culture, depicted as a wandering or light-hearted daydreamer. Yet, like Shiva, the true mystic plays a critical role in society, remaining fearlessly dedicated to the path of transformation in order to save the earth from darkness. Shiva swallows the poison of the world. I get the venom over here. And holds it in his throat, slowly transmuting the liquid into nectar. This is the work of the mystic. They do not fear darkness, but they rather sit in the presence of it, harness the potential and innate energy behind it, and embed it with light. All that light here. They are patient and prudent change makers seeking growth above all else. Unanswerable questions are the mystic's lifeblood. The mystic revels in mystery, in the great riddle of life, dancing with the forces of light and the dark upon its wings. So the creator was right after the mystic. And the creator says the artist, the alchemist, the innovator. And this was the call. This was what made you want to go to that life. This one here is the obstacle to your leaving. You're an artist, an alchemist, and the innovator. The creator, the first archetype in the trio of existence, is not intimidated by darkness or by lack. They know that from the void, creation inevitably emerges. With meager, minimal, and outlandish materials, the creator reveals a new image. They make the empty room resonate with healing sounds. They generate bounty from the seed that others tossed away. Though generative, this archetype annihilates preconceived notions of what is possible, leaving unexpected openings in the wake of its destruction. The creator does this first by being absolutely present to what is, not imagining or wishing things were different, and second, trusting that a force greater than themselves awaits constant collaboration with each human soul. Whether we call it nature, God, goddess, Shakti, or divinity, it remains nameless. It is the creator's lifelong companion. So that was what was holding you back. That was a threshold that was an obstacle to your leaving. You might have been in the midst of creating in the other realm on the other side of the veil, and you didn't want to leave. Didn't want to leave that spiritual existence. You felt at home there. You felt like you were involved in creating, and you didn't want to interrupt that creative work in order to come to the earth. And then the ordeal is the storm. This was your challenge or dilemma that you faced during this lifetime. The chaos, the whirlwind, the disorder. Possessing an energy much like the Tarot's Tower card, the storm undoes all that is. Everything that was solid, known, and relied upon is stripped away by the winds of fate. The ground becomes a sky, the sky becomes a center, and the center disappears. The storm is a great equalizer. No matter how far we've come on the path, no matter our age, wealth, or wisdom, we can't hide from its savage winds. Their disturbing howls stir anxiety and make it impossible to see and think straight. You must wait it out. If you try to fight the storm, you will lose. A better option is to seek temporary shelter and a reliable friend. When all else fails, go within. There for a moment you settle into the eye of the storm. Okay, so this could have been a time in existence that involved a lot of disruption and change, not just for you, but for the people around you. So it could have been a period of time where there was some kind of maybe a war or some kind of a plague or some kind of other major disruption. And so we'll find out more about that later. Then the boon, your reward, your wisdom or skill or blessing that you attained, the gift that was mystical in nature, was the venom, the poison, the curse, the toxin. Much to our dismay, the venom is always lurking in the shadows in one form or another. Its toxic presence may be found in our relationships, thoughts, speech, or environment. Thankfully, the cycle of purification and detoxification comes naturally, that it is built into our every exhale. We breathe out carbon dioxide and the plants return it to us as oxygen. Archetypal venom is rarely remedied as easily, however, and it can come in potent forms and quantities that are deeply damaging to us and to the world. When the venom card appears, there's a harmful substance in our psychic realm that must be identified. Perhaps your words have a sting of poison about them. Perhaps a relationship is slowly draining your reserves. Acknowledgement is the first step. Change is the second. The remedy will reveal itself in time, and with it, forgiveness. So I think with this being the boon and the reward, the blessing and skill that you attained, a gift that is mystical by nature and found in the mundane, I would say that you were able to transmute this venom, or that you were able to identify it in others and help it to shift. And the last one is the sustainer, the programmer, the upholder, the preserver. And this is the return, what you expect to encounter upon your return. The homecoming impacts your ability to integrate meaningful change and prepare yourself. So this might be a return, a reason that you return over and over again. It keeps coming back. The sustainer is the peacemaker, the upholder, the preserver, like the second child syndrome, maybe. The sustainer, the second archetype in the trio of existence, works behind the scenes, tending to the tasks of life. They cultivate gardens, pay bills, keep the meals warm and the mouths sweetly. The sustainer is at peace in the process of life, knowing there is no start or finish to humble yet meaningful tasks. They have a natural inclination to nourish others, to archive, to preserve Earth's resources, to consider environmental impact, to see their role in the divine cycle of life. It's common for the sustainer to become overworked, leading to resentment. Their tasks aren't glamorous, and therefore the sustainer rarely receives the credit or attention. The sustainer longs to hold things in place so badly, especially relationships, that they resist necessary change. Take time with this archetype. It is within us all, and it needs our love. Right, so that is who you were, and basically the essence of who you were, the overarching view of this life that we're looking at, this past or parallel life. You were a mystic. You were a creator. You came to this earth during a time of upheaval. You were transmuting toxic and venomous sort of behavior or tendencies, either in yourself or others. And you really cared about the people that you were around, and you tried really hard to help and support them to your own detriment. So we will end this chapter right here, and then we will come back for the identity portion. Welcome back. We are now moving on to part 2, or step 2, and this is the identity. So we are going to be using these decks for this particular section. We have the Shamanic Medicine Oracle cards, Uncover Your Past Lives Oracle, Fountain Tarot, Dreams of Gaia Tarot, the Character Oracle, the Lantern Oracle, and the Divina Serenity Oracle. So we are going to start off with past lives. So the first question is, what was Shandi's identity in the past life? What was her identity in the past life? Okay, this was a first one. And identity, you were a devotee or a follower. That was your identity. Okay, and then let's get a couple of archetype clarifiers for this identity. We have charity, so it came up with this part on the top. So Good Samaritan. So you were a Good Samaritan. What else? Let's get 1 to 2 more of these clarifiers here. You were involved in a water disaster and lost at sea at some point. And one more. Let's do one more. Okay, it came up this way. Under animals, it says other. So you were not a herder or an animal lover or involved in animal care, but you were something involving animals. Lost at sea, something involving animals. You were a Good Samaritan, a devotee, or a follower. Wonder if you were on Noah's Ark. Well, we'll find out more later. I mean, there could be a million ways of looking at this. Okay, so I want to look at other. I want to read what it says in the guidebook here under animals and other. Water disaster I came up with. Lost at sea. You may have been shipwrecked or lost at sea. The archetype. You may feel lost or invisible, or you may have lost your faith in others or your family, finding it difficult to find your way back to those relationships again. If not, perhaps you've lost yourself in a form of misfortune or grief, or literally lost at sea. Okay, let me see. So charity and Good Samaritan. You may have used your money to help others in need, or you may have offered non-financial aid to lepers, beggars, or the downtrodden or abused. The archetype, you are a compassionate person who readily shows kindness to strangers. You are happy to help others through whatever difficulties they encounter. Animals. Other. You may have been a hunter, a tanner, a butcher, a horseshoer, or something similar. If not, you may have incarnated as an animal. The archetype, you're in touch with your passions, your desires, and your animal side. You aren't afraid to feel a full range of your emotions or to show others who you truly are. The devotee or follower, Okay, so with the past life you were reading, you may have played the role of a devotee, a client, a patient, or a follower. Okay, all right, so that is interesting. We are going to set these, I'm going to move these up here a little bit and move on to the next part. So how did you perceive yourself, Shandi? How did you perceive yourself in this life? Let me shuffle these and find out how you perceived yourself. Okay, tell me the truth about Shandi's past life that we're reading right now. How did Shandi's previous incarnation, how did she perceive herself? How did she perceive herself? An animal shaman. Animal spirits, a spiritual leader, and nature. That's how you saw yourself. With which roles, qualities, or archetypes did I most strongly identify? So we'll use Dreams of Gaia for this. With which roles, qualities, or archetypes did Shandi most strongly identify in her previous life that we're reading right now? What qualities did she most identify? Okay, we're taking the top one that flew over, Destiny. It's number 16. But this deck, Dreams of Gaia, isn't super Rider Waite. There are some differences about it, so let me see what this Destiny card, how it reads. Keywords are personal destiny, universal destiny, seeking answers, purpose, and quest. So you felt like your destiny was to become whole and connected, to lead a life with meaning and purpose, to step inside and explore heart and mind, to discover your gifts and talents, to have a sense of purpose and confidence, ancestral healing, to remember your dreams. This destiny card represents the 8th reason for being, to embrace your destiny. So that is how you viewed yourself, like you were on a quest. How else did you view yourself? What other archetypes, roles, or qualities did you most strongly identify with? With which roles, qualities, or archetypes did Shandi most strongly identify? Okay, we are going to take this one right here. Your creative power. Release your alchemical energy into the world. Creative power. Okay. And what spiritual gifts or innate powers did I consciously acknowledge in myself? And with this, we will use the Divina Serenity Oracle. What spiritual gifts or innate powers did I consciously acknowledge in myself? Just one, please, Spirit. For Shandi in her past life, what spiritual gifts or innate powers did she consciously acknowledge in herself? We're taking this, just the top one, manifestation. You had the ability to manifest what you desired, to pursue your destiny, to create. And then we'll also use this deck right here, Shamanic. Medicine. What spiritual gifts or innate powers did Shandi consciously acknowledge in herself in her past life? You get immersion. I want to read about this. See what that means here. It says sea creatures and immersion. You had the ability to discover the inner riches that lay dormant deep inside you. You were able to accept your limits, to go beyond them. You were able to go with the flow of things and put your focus on your dreams. You had faith that things were working out as it should. You were able to identify deep emotions that need to be set free. Okay. And the last one for this question is the Fountain Tarot. What spiritual gifts or innate powers did Shandi consciously acknowledge in herself during that incarnation of her life? The High Priestess. You consciously acknowledged that you were in tune with your intuition, that you were able to manifest, that you understood your destiny and you had this creative power. You were psychic. You were in touch with your emotions, and you were in touch with the divine. You had a direct line of connection to the divine. Okay, so that is your identity. I'm going to end this chapter now, and then we'll move on to how your partners experienced you during that lifetime. And we are back. This is, we're still in step 2 on identity, and so this is for the partner section. How did your partners experience you in your previous life? So we are going to choose one of these cards from the Character Oracle. How did your partners experience you in your previous existence? One to come over. They saw you as a lawyer, a keeper of justice, law, cases, defense, or an advisor. So maybe they didn't see you necessarily as a lawyer per se, but somebody who valued justice and maybe came to their defense and was their advisor. How did your partner's perception of you shape your identity? So we will use the Dreams of Gaia. How did Shandi's partner's perception of her shape her identity? We get the number 11 card. Here it is. Okay, so that's 11 from, must be air. Reality, fact, opinion, body, mind, open mind, or narrow mind. Key phrases are be open-minded and questioning. You're only limited by your mind. Be discerning. How is your mind affecting your body? How is your body affecting your mind? Facts are certainties. Opinions are not facts, and we can only change ourselves. So that does have that flavor of truth and justice. That kind of, that air. So this would be like a Page of Swords kind of energy. Let's see, next card we are going to use is another oracle for this. How did my partner's perception of me shape my identity? So this idea of truth and justice, mental energy versus physical energy, and how one affects the other, that helped to shape your identity. They very much saw you as a keeper of the justice and a keeper of the truth. And you probably carried the burden of that responsibility with you. Okay, so this deck is called the Sacred Rebels deck. And this one, we are going to use this one for this question as well. How did Shandi's partner perception of her shape her identity? How did her partner's perception of her shape her identity? The perfection of your life. Number 30 card. Have you ever seen a storm pictured from above? It can appear to be so beautiful and elegant. This is certainly different to the ground view, which can be quite a violent experience. So too, there is beauty in your life now. You may be experiencing an anxiety-inducing chaos rather than a beautiful natural process. So your partner may have perceived you. It seems like your partner had you on a pedestal, and you maybe felt the weight of that, even if it felt more like chaos inside of you, but your partner seemed to see you as on a pedestal. No matter what appears to be, in truth, there is only the unfolding creative genius of the universe. You are not forgotten. You have not been looked over. You have not been denied, found wanting, or rejected as unworthy. The storm that needs to erupt is in your own heart. Do your liberating rain dance. Rage, weep, pray, dance, paint, or sing. Express whatever is needed, however it is needed, to exercise the blocked energy in your heart. Then you will call upon the powerful perfection of your life path as it aligns for the next creative turn of the spiral of life. Once again, you will trust and directly experience the flower of life unfolding within you and around you. It seems like your partner held you on this pedestal and you felt pressure to maintain that image, but you felt this chaos, you know, brewing within you, and you tried to keep that hidden and under wraps. Okay. Then we have, what gifts or qualities did Shandi's partners recognize or misunderstand in her? Acceptance. And we'll go back to the Sacred Rebel. It's too many. What gifts or qualities did Shandi's partners recognize or misunderstand in her? Into life. What gifts or qualities did Shandi's partners recognize or misunderstand in her? Temperance. Your partners felt like you were receptive. They felt like you were accepting, that you had let go of resistance. They thought you were open and trusting in the universe, and that you were faithful and optimistic. This one, come to life. You are the most sacred of all sacred artworks. You're bringing yourself to life now, and this is how it must be. See how she's painting herself and bringing herself to life, bringing color to her own life. Coming to life means feeling. It might bring joy, but it also could equally bring sadness, rage, or fear. It could bring all of these and more. I feel like this is more of that pedestal energy, and this was part of who you were. You were faithful and optimistic, but you also carried this burden of holding up this image, and you were in the process of bringing yourself to life, and that had the effect of some feelings boiling over underneath. And then this card here, they recognized or misunderstood. I think they recognized and misunderstood the Temperance card for you. They saw you as being this person who was keeping the balance, keeping everything together, and maintaining the alchemy of everything. But they didn't understand how hard it was and what kind of cost that it presented for you. Sounds like a man. Okay. We're going to end there, and then the next category will be family and friends. Welcome back. We are now on the family and friends section. How did my family and close allies see me? And so these are questions asking for Shandi and her past life experience. I am going to also use my pendulum to find out what your first name was. How did Shandi's family and close allies see her? We're using the Living Archetypes Oracle. This did not come with a suitable box, but to have a guidebook that will show you what it looks like in case anybody wants to shop for it. That's what it looks like. And I think I got it on Etsy. We are using the Archetypes Oracle. How did Shandi's family and close allies view her? Okay, we got a mystic that came up, which that fits with one of the previous cards. So we got mystic. Then the next question is, did they affirm my spiritual role or dismiss it? And we are using the Circle of Doors Tarot and the Lantern Oracle for this question. Did they affirm Shandi's spiritual role or dismiss it? I'm going to just cut the deck. Eight of Swords, rumination. So they may have had some misgivings about your spiritual role. I'm not sure that they dismissed it, but they might have been quite worried about it. We'll get more information here. Did her family and friends affirm her spiritual role or dismiss it? Radical honesty comes up. And the small print says, to believe in the facade is to suffocate in the armor of alienation, self-defeat, and self-denial. So I think they acknowledged your spiritual role, but they worried about it a great deal. So let me see what other cards we have here. What gifts, skills, or traits did they nurture or suppress in me? I'm going to use the Divina Serenity Oracle first. What gifts, skills, or traits did they nurture or suppress in Shandi during this past life reading? This past life or this parallel life that we're reading for. Shandi's family and close allies. What skills, traits, and gifts did they nurture or suppress? Okay, well, we got two that came over. Beauty was the top one. So they may have had you on a pedestal as well. Beauty. But they may have also seen your inner beauty. The recognition and appreciation of beauty in all of its forms, both within yourself and in the world around you. They accepted your inner beauty and your outer beauty. They acknowledged your unique qualities, strengths, and gifts that make you truly beautiful. So it sounds like they acknowledged who you were at your core and affirmed that. They were not trying to suppress that. Okay, then we'll use the Sacred Rebel. What gifts, skills, or traits did they nurture or suppress within Shandi? Her family, her close allies. What did they nurture or suppress within her as far as her skills, and traits, and talents? Okay, cut the deck. Release the dark wound, let love live. So here we have kindness being extended to an animal again, and that fits in with some of the other cards that we received in past sections. But let's see what this says. This is from the Sacred Rebel Oracle, number 25. This is about letting go of the death grip of perfectionism and letting yourself and your ideas live. Love is abundant, creative, and inspiring. You're being asked to honor the path of your own love. What inspires you? What feels exciting, joyful, or perhaps even rather different? Let that live. Release doubt and uncertainty. Yeah, this is just about embracing your own creativity, not self-editing yourself, not doubting yourself, and just embracing that idea of love and creative passion. So that sounds like something that they may have acknowledged within you and nurtured rather than suppressed. All right, we'll get the tarot card. This is from the Fountain Tarot. Same question though. What gifts, skills, or traits did they nurture or suppress within Shandi? Queen of Wands. They nurtured your creative passion. They nurtured your ambition, your confidence, your drive. Okay, excellent. That's great news. Okay, so our next section is, we're going to stop here, and our next section will be about the collective community around you and how they viewed you, what image or reputation did you carry, and how were your gifts received, honored, feared, dismissed, etc. So we will be coming back shortly for that section. Stay tuned. And we are back. We are now going to use my pendulum to get Shandi's first name. So I'm going to tilt the camera down here. I don't have my phone with me, so I'm going to tilt the camera down from my laptop, and we'll see what we get. Spirit, can you use this pendulum to tell me what Shandi's first name was in her previous life reading that we are doing right now? Okay, I'm getting a yes. Okay, and what is the first letter? I'm going to stop the pendulum. What is the first letter of her first name? Is that an O? Yes. What's the next letter? Okay, is it a P? Yes. Okay. What's next? Is it an H? Okay. Yes. What's next after OPH? Okay, it looks like it's going to an E. Is it an E, Spirit? Yes, so OPHE, I'm assuming that the name is Ophelia. Is that correct? You give me a big yes if that's correct. Ophelia is her name. Is there anything additional? Anything else? Okay. Going in the all done pattern. When it goes counterclockwise in a circle, it's saying it's all done. Okay, thank you very much, Spirit. So the name, your first name for this previous life reading that we are doing is Ophelia. Okay, we are back, and now we are going to be doing the section on your greater community, the collective. How did your community or society view you? And for this one, we are going to use, whoops, knocked my table, the Archeo. So how did your community or society view you? We're going to use this one for that particular question. And now we know your name was Ophelia, so we can reference Ophelia as I'm pulling these cards. Okay, Spirit. In reading for Ophelia, Shandy's past life, how did Ophelia's community or society view her? And again, Ophelia is Shandy's past life persona that we're reading for. They viewed you as a sage. How wonderful is that? That's exciting. And Sage says, the sage sits quietly by your side, reminding you to stay centered. His wisdom has come down through the ages, and his counsel is balanced and reliable. He has no material agenda, and unlike those priests who cloak themselves in worldly wealth, he requires no supplication, nor does he demand an adherence to a tablet of commandments. He sees no reason to regret or blame. The persona, human kindness, needs no stick or carrot. It simply requires us to understand that we are bound together in a single unity. Your community recognized that your wisdom was hard fought for and that you didn't come to your elevated awareness by accident. Your path was long and lonely, and your journey required great discipline, but in time it gifted you with the powers of great compassion and empathy. You need little and lived in meditative simplicity. Okay, well, that's interesting. Very interesting. And it seems to fit with what we're getting so far. Okay, and then the next question is going to be, what images or reputation did I carry in the collective I? We'll go back to Dreams of Gaia on this one. Okay, what image or reputation did Ophelia carry in the collective I? You were viewed as a sage. What kind of reputation, image or reputation did the collective have for you? Okay. We have the maiden. Keywords on this are fertility, independence, self-esteem, confidence, self-expression, self-exploration, self-interest, sexuality, creativity, selfishness, codependency, and timidity. Key phrases are to follow your dreams, discover your passions, focus on self-discovery, address self-imposed limits and restrictions, increased independence, seek your own answers, release feelings of fear and abandonment, expressing your goals and desires, being true to yourself, and acting with empathy. A little wiener dog that just jumped on my chair right behind me. The maiden card is one of youthful confidence, empowerment, and increasing independence. You were fertile, but used that fertile nature to create, express, and explore. You were on a journey of self-discovery, focused on learning more about who you were and what made you happy. And you knew that your explorations in the present or during your life gave rise to a future self who knows what she wants from life and is not afraid to make it happen. So they viewed you as a creative person, as independent, as confident, but they might have viewed you as self-interested and that you were difficult to control, and they wanted to control you because that is just the way it has always been since the beginning of time. Is, there's always been an effort to control women, especially those who are strong. They wanted to control you, and they felt that it was difficult to control you, and so that was challenging for them to accept. You had healthy boundaries, and you had pride and confidence. So interesting. Okay, now we're going to go to the lantern. Oh, Phoebe, can you please get down? Get down, Phoebe. Phoebe, come here. She's just recently decided she likes to sit on my chair right behind me if I'm sitting forward in my chair enough for her to squeeze herself in there. But that makes things uncomfortable for me. Okay, now back to the question. What image or reputation did Ophelia carry in the collective I? Image or reputation. What did Shandi's previous life, what image or reputation did she have in her community? Wants to come out. Sharing. There's giving and receiving and giving. This is a number 33 card. So they did see you. While they saw you as difficult to control, they did see you as beautiful, and they were concerned about, just because they were, people had, for centuries and eons have worried about women who have confidence and healthy boundaries and a healthy sense of themselves. And so they tried to control this aspect of you, but they also respected it. They feared it and respected it. But they could also see that you were one who was there to help others, was a giving and reciprocal part of the community. All right, the next question is, How were your spiritual gifts received, honored, feared, dismissed, or elevated? We are going to use the divine nature for this one. How were your spiritual gifts received, honored, feared, dismissed, or elevated by the community? Remember who you are. Okay, so tell me how that fits in with the question. Remember who you are. They say an elephant never forgets, and now is the time to emulate her powerful spirit. She knows who she is and carries the wisdom of the ancestors in her veins and the song of the earth in her mighty step. Her grace and power remind us we need only honor our nature and embrace its natural shape in order to embody remembrance. Allow yourself to take up all the space you need to express your particular genius. Allow yourself to love who and what you love unabashedly. Make no apologies for what feels most natural and alive to you. Now is the time to remember who you were before the world told you who you should be. So with the question being, how were your spiritual gifts received, honored, feared, dismissed, or elevated? I would say that they were elevated. People knew who you were and what you were trying to accomplish. They understood. They feared it. They wanted to control it, but they understood that you were a mystic and a sage, and they gave you that space. For the most part, they recognized who you were. Okay. We're also going to ask this question of the Fountain Tarot and the Shamanic Medicine Oracle. How were Ophelia, with Shandi, how were Ophelia's spiritual gifts received, honored, feared, dismissed, or elevated during this past life? Divination. Recognized that you had this spiritual gift. They recognized that you were a mystic, that you were a sage. They recognized this. They elevated it. They feared it as well. They received it, but they feared it. Okay, and Fountain Tarot, same question. How were Shandi and Ophelia's gifts received, honored, feared, dismissed, or elevated? Her spiritual gifts. Got the Two of Swords. So with the Two of Swords, I think that they recognized that you had to retreat into your intuition at times. Sometimes they attempted to cross that boundary, and sometimes they recognized the boundary. They always had a choice on how to receive you, and that the way they chose varied from time to time. As we've established here with these other cards, they recognized your talents and your gifts. They received them. They acknowledged them and they benefited from them, but they also feared them and wanted to control them. Okay, so now we are going to move on to your purpose and your soul expression. What was it? The Magician. Competent, creative, and masterful. You knew that you were several of the answers that we've gotten have been something along the lines of a mystic or a sage. You knew that you could create at will, that you had all of the tools, that you were a tool in the divine's hands, and that you could create what you wanted to create. Beyond perception, what was the essence of who you truly were? What was the essence of who you truly were? What's the essence of Ophelia? The essence of Ophelia. Lantern. Consciousness is light. You embodied the full circle of life, of womanhood. You went through all the phases of womanhood. You embodied the qualities of the maiden, the mother, the guardian, and the crone. You integrated your spirit self with your higher self. The essence of who you truly were is that you were a light around you. You were a light to the world. You met every teaching and every lesson and every event in your life as an opportunity to learn and give back to others. The true essence of you was love and the ability to compassionately embrace all of the facets of yourself and all of the facets of others. Okay, now we'll ask the same question of dreams of Gaia. Beyond perception, what was the essence of who Ophelia was? Beyond perception, what was the essence deep down of Ophelia? The essence of Ophelia, deep down, beyond perception, deep in her core, what was the essence of her? Three of Earth. Keywords: ambition, sowing seeds, groundwork, energy investment, sacrifice, fertility, and outcomes. So your key phrases from this card were time to make preparations. You risked future goals and ambitions. You had an investment and sacrifice equals reward sort of mindset. You understood that there were always going to be times of restriction or adversity, and times of increased opportunity, but you were able to navigate those kind of with eyes wide open. You understood that those periods of time, those ebbs and flows were part of life. You were committed and dedicated. You understood what your own motives were, and you worked hard to maintain your intimacy and connection with the world around you and with others. But here again, we have another image of you being kind to animals. That empathy and that deep understanding had of yourself and others also extended to the animal kingdom. You understood that you needed to make investments in your own self, your own physical well-being, and you knew how to do that. Okay. Then also, what spiritual gifts were you meant to embody or awaken in others? What were the spiritual gifts you were meant to embody or awaken in others? What were the spiritual gifts Shandi and Ophelia? Discipline, so that fits in with this. Acceptance. What spiritual gifts were you meant to embody or awaken in others? Two again. Three of Wands, so that commitment to taking action. Not just having a plan, but moving on it. And the Sun. You brought joy and optimism to the people around you. You knew how to make things expand. What gifts were you, and spiritual gifts were you meant to embody or awaken in others? Spiritual gifts were you meant to embody or awaken in others? You got the Remember Who You Are card again. You not only embodied this is not only something that people viewed you as, but it's something that you believed in and you worked hard to teach to others and help them understand as well. Okay, so we are going to stop there, and when we come back, we are going to move on to the section of the shadow. Welcome back, and now we are about to move into the shadow. And how was I misunderstood? So how was Ophelia, Shandy's previous incarnation was named Ophelia, reminder. How was Ophelia misunderstood? Ophelia was misunderstood. The character Shadow was the wolf. Let's look at what this archetype has to say. So the wolf, all paths are known to the wolf. No matter the terrain, the forest, plain, or wasteland, the wolf has traveled that byway before. But if you wish his assistance, you must first lose your fear of his animal nature and your squeamishness around death and desire. Accept the wolf for who and what he is and never try to tether or chain him. Walk beside him, mimic his footsteps, grow your senses, and avoid pointless noise. Together we are all half wolves, werewolves, and we should never suppress our hungers nor let them run amok. Wolf has no need to be taken into society's bosom. He hunts and mates for vitality's sake. His wants and his needs aren't in contradiction. Though an individual creature, his brothers and sisters will come to his side in the blink of an eye if needed. So you were misunderstood as people thought you had this wolf characteristic. They thought that you were independent, that you were, you had no need of being within society. They saw you as this sage and this mystic, and that you were independent and fierce, and that you had no need to be taken into society's bosom. But that wasn't true. You did need people. You did need to be in a giving and reciprocal relationship with your community, and people misunderstood your mystical nature and they thought that you had that fierce independence, but it really wasn't quite like that. Okay, then the next question is, mask did I wear for survival? Dreams of Gaia and Lantern. What mask did Ophelia wear for survival? Number 42, home. May your body be where a harmonious balance of love, strength, light, and pleasure lives. So it sounds like you wore a mask of, you had a hard time letting people see your vulnerabilities. You knew who you were supposed to be, and you wore that mask resolutely at all times. You did not let people inside and let them see what was hidden in there lightly or often. And that's something that you carry forward into this life too. Know who you're supposed to be, and so you only allow most people to see who you think you're supposed to be, and letting other people inside to see what's vulnerable and underneath that mask, it takes a lot for you to do that. Okay, dreams of Gaia. What mask did Ophelia wear for survival? Okay, just taking the top one. You had, you wore the mask of healing. Okay, healing. So healing, release, purification, forgiveness, transformation, and infection. The key phrases here are: to be human is to be wounded, a time to connect body, mind, spirit, and soul. Let go of definitions and labels. Nurture passions, seek pleasure, authenticity, honesty, laughter. Find the source of disease and distress, and you need to forgive. Do what's necessary to increase well-being. Do not dwell on the unchangeable past. Shift your attention. Do not allow your pain to hurt others. And seek treatment. Do not be afraid. The healing card illustrates our third reason for being. However, it covers healing on several levels, and it does not necessarily suggest or imply that you are wounded or in need of healing. The healing card symbolizes a need to reconnect and listen to what your body, mind, and feelings are telling you, to work with them instead of against them. So this is the kind of mask that you wore. You knew that you knew intellectually and spiritually that this is the goal, and that it was your job to share that with others. And you used that as a mask. You hid behind that. You had a hard time letting people see any need for healing that you might have carried within you, because you knew that you were supposed to be healed, or you were supposed to carry a message of healing to others. And so you had a hard time allowing people to see beneath that, because you knew that's what you were supposed to be. That was the message you were supposed to be carrying to others. As a muse, as a mystic, as a sage, you knew that. What essence lived beneath the mask for Ophelia? What essence lived beneath the mask? Mm-hmm. One wanted to come over. Action. You wanted to take action. You had a fiery energy. You knew that it needed to be, that all of your goals needed to be acted upon. You had a call to take bold and decisive action in your life. You knew you needed to step out of your comfort zone and actively pursue your goals and your dreams. Action opens doors to new possibility and opportunities. You believed in forward momentum and progress. Proactive. You did not want to spend time on obstacles and fears, and did not want to allow those things to hold you back. You knew you had a mission, and you wanted to take that action. You didn't want to spend a bunch of time in navel gazing and looking at, any shadows or any perceived weaknesses within you. You didn't have a lot of patience for that within yourself. You did for others. You were more compassionate with others, but for you, you knew the answer to getting to where you needed to be and to carrying out the mission that you needed to carry out was to be to be decisive and bold. What was the essence beneath the mask for Ophelia? Trickster, which is interesting with this wolf energy. Challenge. trickster energy. You were wise, skilled in self-willed behavior. You pushed people's boundaries to test whether they run or stay the course. You liked to go into unfamiliar territory, change your perspective, and challenge other people's expectations and opinions. You like to ask questions that no one else would dare to ask, and you saw the humor within each situation. The essence of you, you had fun with this life. You were misunderstood as being alone and not needing others, but you did need others, and you weren't all serious. You, deep inside, you had a lot of fun and a lot of curiosity. You were bold and enjoyed your life. The essence beneath the mask. That was one more essence beneath the mask for Ophelia. What was beneath? Ace of Wands. You were creative and bold and passionate. You had, you let that energy light you up and spark and ignite your curiosity and your sense of fun. But yeah, you had that Ace of Wands spirit within you. That's what we have for the shadow. So next up we're going to be looking at the time frame. So when we come back, that's what we will dig into. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now we are on to the section of the reading where we will be digging into the time frame that Ophelia was alive. And if you are just joining on this segment or you're coming back after having been away for a while, Ophelia is the first name of one of my daughter's past lives. And for this portion of the reading, we're going to be using the Shamanic Medicine Oracle cards. It's these ones right here. The Guardian of the Night Tarot, which is these. The Somnia Tarot, right here. And the Woodland Wardens, right here. Also, the Uncover Your Past Lives Oracle. We are going to jump right in. If you hear beeps, my wife is working on our fire alarm. So, and hopefully it doesn't scare the crap out of me any more than it already has. It's really, really loud. Which I guess they're supposed to be, I suppose. Okay, so we are looking for the past life time frame and some archetype clarifiers for the time frame that my daughter's past life occupied the earth. What time can we get a time frame response for when Shandi's past life, Ophelia, was here on the planet? Okay, so we have time frame is the late modern age. So this might be a somewhat parallel life rather than past life. Oh, well, wait a minute. There are two cards. Okay, so we have American Civil War and we have late modern age. So I'm going to use my pendulum to find out which one of these was supposed to be the one. I'm thinking the modern age because it was the one on top, but let's just clarify. Okay, Spirit, can you tell me which one of these the time frame was that Shandi's past life existed? Was it this one? The late modern age? That is a no. Okay. Was it the American Civil War era? My hand is right in front of the camera, but I'm getting a yes. Let me move this over a little bit so you can see. Okay, for confirmation, Spirit, can you tell me if Ophelia existed and lived on this planet during the American Civil War era? Okay, I'm getting a big yes. American Civil War era time frame. Now, let's get some other information. Get 3 Archetype clarifier cards from this deck. That one definitely flew out. Freed. So this is imprisonment, but she was freed. Okay. What else do we have for Ophelia during her lifetime on this planet, during American Civil War era time frame? Can we get some more flyers, please? What else do we have? That one wanted to come out. Local artisan. And judge. So it seems strange that she was one of the early archetype cards. She was seen by her partner as like a lawyer. They viewed her as like somebody who brought justice. And then now we get the judge and the law. But it's interesting that she was also imprisoned but freed. Okay, well, we will find out more about that. And a local artisan. Okay. All right, let's get some more information. What energy, mood, or archetype defined the collective at this time? We're going to use all of these decks for that, but we're going to start with the Shamanic medicine. What energy, mood, or archetype defined the collective at this time? Air. We had that earlier, I believe. Okay. So air, creativity. She was a local artisan, and creativity has been a theme that has been woven throughout this reading so far. So air and creativity. If you get this deck, then your person will not have this pretty little dress. I put that on her because she was naked. All right, we're going to go to the Somnia Tarot next. What energy, mood, or archetype define the collective at this time? Ten of Coins. So prosperity, abundance. This may have been in the early Civil War era, before things got really tough, or just before the war started. Prosperity and ancestral wealth and familial abundance was something that defined the collective at this time. Okay, what about, we'll get another card here, Woodland Wardens. Energy, mood, or archetype define the collective at this time. So creativity and prosperity so far. What else? Creativity. What else? The mouse and the buttercup. Innocence. So there was an era of innocence. Energy, mood, or archetype that defined the collective at this time. Justice. So we get another justice card to go with this judge, this imprisonment. Okay, interesting. All right, now we are going to move on to the core challenges, the struggles or tensions that marked this historical moment. What struggles or tensions marked this historical moment? The lower world in the past. I'll want to read that one. What struggles or tensions marked this historical moment? Three of Wands. So people were ready to take action and move forward on plans that they had made. And this was a struggle and caused tension because perhaps some people were not wanting to take that action. So there were some people that wanted to take the actions that were taken and other people that did not. And that's the part of the crux of the issue. Struggles or tensions marked this historical moment. The deer and the oat, healing. Healing was a continual theme throughout this reading so far. Okay. And finally, struggles or tensions that marked this historical moment. King of Wands. This king wanted to take this bold, courageous leadership. This person had vision. They had a vision for the future. They were possibly the author of this action. They wanted this to go forward. Okay. I want to read the one on the lower world. This does sound a lot like what could have been taking place in this country around this time frame. You've avoided the lower world or your own past out of fear and misperception. This is not a place of hellish darkness, but somewhere that must be explored if you wish to be acquainted with the oldest part of your soul and move beyond the things that hold you back. And the soul of America was being confronted at that time. Every time people say in this day and age when they're talking about horrible politics and they're like, this is not who we are, it's exactly who we are. And it's exactly who we've been for hundreds of years. We had this opportunity to confront our past and overcome it during this time, and we failed. The lower world card invites you to retrieve your lost power. Hear the rattles shake and the drums beat and dance your way to the trunk of the cosmic tree, world tree. Seek guidance from the ancestors and the nature spirits that reside here. In the indigenous cultures of America, the world tree is a place where spirit animals live alongside the ancestors. Lost information is found and fragmented parts of the soul await retrieval by the shaman. So this is a time where healing, wisdom, and power need to be brought forward into life to correct the wrongs or heal the wounds of the past. That's why we got this healing card here. Healing was what was needed during this time frame. And your totem animals will accompany you as you descend into the past and discover where your power lies and how they help you in the here and now. Remember earlier in the reading, it was revealed that Ophelia was an animal shaman. This is interesting. Okay. All right, so now we will move to the next prompt in this section, and that is, was I born at the rise, peak, decline, or aftermath of this era? Was Ophelia born at the rise, peak, or decline, or the aftermath of this era? Dreamweaver, accessibility. I think with a Dreamweaver, a person with black skin on this card. In this background, we have what looks like a white man right here. And then we have these animals as well. Accessibility. This person looks like they're dreaming. They're dreaming of freedom. I think it's the beginning from that card. Let's see what the other cards say. Rise, peak, decline, or aftermath of the American Civil War era. The rise, peak, or aftermath. The rise, peak, or aftermath. Queen of Cups. So a queen would seem to be the peak or the aftermath. Let's pull some more cards to see if we can kind of get a more of a consensus here. This feels like rise. The rise, peak, decline, or aftermath of this era. The moth and eucalyptus, and it says an ending, so that would be more of an aftermath. Okay. Let's see what the Guardian Tarot says. Guardians of the Night. Okay, that was too many. Okay. Ophelia born at the rise, peak, decline, or aftermath of the American Civil War era. Maybe it was the beginning of the... Here what I'm seeing is the beginning of the new time after the war was over. Maybe it was the decline. The Hanged Man. This feels like almost the ending of the war, like during the rebuilding afterwards, where there's still hopes of actual freedom, but with the Queen and the Hanged Man that comes right before death, and an ending here with the moth. That feels like it is just at the conclusion of the war, during the rebuilding, where things are trying to be brought together, because there were so many cards about healing throughout this process, and that how Ophelia's role was a healer, and she felt a deep responsibility for the healing. So it must be like the immediate aftermath, which also makes sense why it felt like a little bit of a beginning. Okay, because it's the beginning of a new time. All right, so the next question here for this section is going to be, what was awakening or asleep in humanity during this time? You know what? I think Ophelia was born at the beginning of the American Civil War, but she was coming of age because she felt like she was conscious and responsible for healing in the aftermath of it. So I think that was the case. That's what it feels like. What was awakening or asleep in humanity at this time? Offerings and wealth. I mean, the other cards that we received, the wealth was present. So that wouldn't have been like right in the midst of the war. It would have been either before or after. So offerings and wealth, that was awakening. It was reawakening after a period of time of war. What was awakening or asleep in humanity at this time? Death. So endings, new beginnings, both. When a country goes through a civil war, it's both. Being covered by this white, this is like reminiscent of the KKK. What was awakening or asleep in humanity during this time? The butterfly and snowdrop. Hope. Hope was awakening. Queen of Cups again. Got another Queen of Cups. Intuition. Psychic power. Emotional intelligence. And awareness. Okay. And finally, the seasons of the soul. How did this time frame mirror a season of Ophelia's soul? Sacred site and purpose. So this is like, it's not Stonehenge. It doesn't look like Stonehenge, but it's like Stonehenge. And with the light here, everything is really green, so it could be summer. Summer represents thriving. Season of Shandi or Ophelia's soul. Six of Wands. So Six of Wands is it's taking your moment in the limelight like this. Success. It's thriving. Let me see if there's any. It's associated with summer. That's what I thought. Then, let's see, Woodland Wardens. So this is summer. The Finch and Peach, romance. That would be summer, I would think. And Guardian of the Night. Page of Cups. It's got a capybara. And looks like magnolia flowers. And lotuses. That looks summery to me. Okay, so summer, thriving. So this time frame mirrored a season of Shandi's soul and Ophelia's soul as a thriving period of time. So things were thriving, abundance was happening again. This was at the conclusion of the war, and hope and healing were happening. Okay, so we are going to end there, and then we're going to move on to location. And we are back for the place or location section of Shandi's past life reading. And we are going to, I wanted to show you which decks I'm using to begin with, and then we will get into everything. I am going to do all of the shuffling all at once, edit that out, and try to, that should help with my editing process, not necessarily changing the length of the video. This video is already very long, and I am trying to edit out as much of the shuffling and so forth as I can in order to reduce the amount of time that is taking, but if I do all the shuffling all up front, then I just have one big section to edit out. So for the location, we are going to be we'll be using the Uncover Your Past Lives Oracle. We'll also be using the Place Oracle. I'll be using the Bloodlands Oracle, Mindscapes Tarot, and Tarot Landscapes as well to help nail down the location. Then we will be using Woodland Wardens again, the Wildwood Tarot, and Lantern Oracle, and Witch's Wisdom Tarot. So that is what we are going to be working with. I'm going to get these all shuffled, and then we will get into the reading. Okay, so what we have here is the location was jungle. So I'm thinking that that means somewhere in the South, and I would assume that it would be the United States since it was part of the American Civil War era, but we get jungle for location. And then the other cards that we got, location archetypes that we got here were Ophelia was a wisdom keeper and was enlightened. And then we also had an execution and she was a witness. And then we had rural living and she was a peasant, which she is going to crack up at when she hears this, because when she was a little girl, one of her favorite games was to play peasant woman. She wanted to put a handkerchief over her hair, and she called that being a peasant woman. But she talked about it all the time when she was little, so that is hilarious. Now we are also going to draw some place oracles. This has already been shuffled, and I'm just going to see if I can get some flyers, and I'll get probably 2 to 3 of these. Okay, 3 just came out. Yep, 3. So something to do with a museum, artifacts, exhibits, interactive displays, and museum collections, a bench, and a cemetery. So these were some interesting or noteworthy parts of her life and the place that she was at. Interesting that the cemetery looks like a cemetery from, I mean, when I look at it, I immediately think of a New Orleans cemetery. That it may not be from there, it may be from somewhere entirely different, but that's what I immediately thought of. So resting place, memorial stones, and the bench, rest and relaxation, seating, comfort, pause and ponder. And then the museum, artifacts, exhibits, interactive displays, museum collections. So I wonder if she had something to do with that too. But I'm thinking her place maybe was around Louisiana. So I'm going to get my pendulum. Maybe Florida. Okay, so Spirit, we are looking at location, and we have jungle, and I assumed that this was for the United States based on the time frame that we're looking at, which was the American Civil War era, and so I was thinking she was in the United States. Jungly areas of the United States would be, I would consider, somewhere in Florida, maybe the Everglades, or potentially in Louisiana. Am I on the right track here? Oops. Make sure you can see my hand here. I'm getting a yes. Southern United States. So would it have been Florida? Still saying yes. Doesn't seem to be stopping. Okay, I'm going to ask about Louisiana. Would it have been Louisiana? Before I started coughing, it was looking like a no. Let's try that again. Okay, it looked like you were saying no, Spirit, to Louisiana. Was it Louisiana? Okay, getting no. So Florida, one more confirmation. We're looking at Florida during the American Civil War period. Florida, rural living, peasant living. You were spiritually enlightened. You were a witness to an execution. Something about a cemetery and a bench and a museum were important to you. Okay. Now we are going to get into the next question is, what was the spirit or energy of this land? The footpath. It's an earth card. Guidance, assistance, and trusting others. The footpath card offers a chance to reflect on the paths we follow that have been blazed by those before us. Someone found their way through a wild, unfamiliar place and cleared the way for others to travel. Now is the time to remember those who helped you to get where you're going and express your gratitude. Whose footsteps do you walk in, and who might you eventually leave a path for? The idea of the footpath is noteworthy here for this place. All right, and from the Mindscapes Tarot, what was the spirit or energy of this land? Strength. The energy of the land was strong, it was resilient. It may have been challenging, requiring daily, consistent action in order to live there. We have a rural scene here with the horses and a small house. There's no mountains like that in Florida, but it did say rural, so rural living. And northern Florida has a lot of rural areas, although the Everglades is more jungly. So, okay, and then tarot landscapes. What was the spirit or energy of this land? Two of Pentacles. So the spirit or energy of the land required balance. That daily consistent action that you have to have that's displayed in the Strength card. There was a constant need for balancing resources and your needs. Okay, next question is, how did I feel in this land? We're going to use the Woodland Wardens for this one. How did Ophelia feel in this land? The Wolf and Rosehip. And the key word is guardianship. She felt like a guardian. We've already established that Ophelia was an animal shaman and had an affinity for animals, and so she had a strong sense of guardianship over them. Then also use the Wildwood Tarot for this. How did Ophelia feel in this land? How did Ophelia feel in this land? The Guardian. You cannot make this up. So the Guardian card this is a devil card. I'm going to look it up in this particular tarot. It's a devil, but the key word, I think, is the important thing. I think that this is Spirit saying, I said what I said. She felt like a guardian. So let's see that's my intuitive feeling on it. But let's look at the guidebook on this particular tarot card. The guardian spirit of the beast challenges those who would enter the cave of ancestral memory without understanding the nature of their own darkness. Before the path may be followed, the guardian must be faced and mastery of one's own fears achieved. And we are talking about how she felt in this land. Challenge has arrived in your life. The situation may be very complex. It may even have profound implications for your life and how you deal with the world. It may manifest itself in the form of a profound inner realignment or the facing of some physical outer predicament. Whether from the labyrinth that is the human mind or from some external source, the challenge that presents itself now must be seen for what it is, an opportunity. So let's see here. I'm really getting mainly the guardianship, like an emphasis on the guardianship, but there may have been some fears and darknesses that she had to face based on going through this period of time. And in this land, being in the South, during the Reconstruction, after the Civil War, there may have been a lot of reasons for fear and concern. But I am getting more of an emphasis spiritually, intuitively, I'm getting more of an emphasis on guardianship, that she was a guardian. She felt like she was a guardian of the land and the animals that lived on it. Okay, so let's see here. And the next question is, how did people treat each other on this land? How did people treat each other on this land? How did people treat each other? This deck is not the same as a Rider-Waite deck either, so let me see. Number 4 card is the Moon. There's a wildness within us that yearns to be physical, sensual, animal, and free. But we live in a human world of comfort and possession, safe and secure, but cut off from the natural world, from our body, from the magic of embodiment. There is mystery, wildness, physical instinct, liberated feminine power. When the moon appears and the wild calls, what will you choose? The illusory safety of your city tower, the sanctuary of a witch's cottage with its tiny light shining in the forest? You can't pretend that's wildness. Howl at the moon, race with wolves, swim with otters, fly with owls, look back into the far distance and see the light from your own cottage window. Feel a pang of sorrow for all that you have let go. Then turn to the moon above and feel a shiver of delight as you hear the answering howl of your companions. So how did people treat each other? Actually, we'll just go right to the lantern and see if that helps. How did people treat each other on this land? You are here to be known, so speak and be seen. Sounds like they kind of treated each other with some authenticity, but possibly some suspicion, and treated them as if they were mysterious. Yeah, this talks about how family and culture suppresses our voices, but in this particular area, the people seem to know that they were here to be seen, they were here to speak, they were here to use their voice, and they express themselves. They maybe were more in touch with the land and their wildness than other people, in touch with nature around them. Okay, what role did Ophelia play in the community tied to this land? Get sharing again. We had this card earlier. It was giving and receiving and giving. So you were involved in this community and sharing and giving with one another, seeing each other with your bounty. You gave to your community to a great extent. Maybe you set up a museum. What role did Ophelia play in the community tied to this land? 8 of Earth. So you were very much involved in helping with, maybe you were a teacher. Maybe you were a teacher at this museum. Maybe you were a curator. You were an artist. One of the other cards earlier called you an artist. You were also listed as a judge, and maybe you judged work at this museum. You witnessed an execution, and so maybe you you had something to do with being a judge because you spoke out about it. You used your voice. You spoke out about it. And having witnessed that, you may have, because you had been imprisoned earlier, we knew that you were imprisoned but then set free. And so as a result of that drama, whatever that execution was that you saw and you witnessed and you're speaking out about it, you maybe wound up in jail for a period of time, but you were released because you were innocent. But you were also an artist and had something to do with this museum. You were developing in your expertise and teaching others and sharing your knowledge with others. That's why I think it's a teacher, because you were mastering your craft, but you were also sharing and giving and receiving. So now we are moving on to the question, what were the key values or taboos of the community? Intelligence. So that fits in with this museum and this concept of teaching. Intelligence was a key value. The crow and the dogwood. And then this one. The Knight of Arrows, hawk. So truth and intelligence, confirming that. So then the final prompt here is, who held authority and how was power expressed? Who held authority and how was power expressed? Let me get 2 cards from this deck for that. So 10 of Pentacles again, 10 of Earth. And with this particular card, it shows the mycelium and this hidden network. So this network of these mushrooms are all connected by this hidden network of underground communication. So who held the power and authority in your area? It was a hidden network. It was underground. And they had the money. How was power expressed? Power is expressed by holding on to it, holding on to the old ways, maintaining stability, maintaining structure. Welcome back. We are now moving on to the section that is the faith section. My previous section got cut off just a little bit early, but nothing noteworthy got cut off. We had gotten to the end of the questions and had gotten all of the cards. I had a little bit of an editing snafu, and I was waiting for the video to update. I was able to shuffle the cards, get them ready to go, and pull the past life oracle cards for this section. The first question of this section is the overarching themes of faith for Shandi's previous life. She was ascetic. And I Googled that, and that means that she was very devoted. She followed the rules. She was very strict with herself and the way that she observed her faith. And we got that early on in the beginning of the reading, the past life reading, was that she was a devotee and a follower, and when it came to her faith, and the manner in which she practiced was by being very strict with herself. Then a couple of clarifying cards on this was she lived under oppression, and it was social oppression, which makes sense considering what we know of her previous life. Ophelia, what we know of Ophelia and what was important to Ophelia during this time frame of American history, we can see that there was probably some social oppression in how she felt internally, possibly felt oppressed in the way that she practiced her faith. And also she seemed to be faithfully powerful and powerfully faithful. And that probably was unusual for women at that time. And so she may have experienced some social oppression. The other clarifying card that we got here was artist. and hobbyist was at the top. So we've gotten a few different cards that have indicated that she was an artist and early on, and then we had the one with the museum. She had something to do with the museum, and then here we get that she was an artist and was a hobbyist because she had other priorities, but art was also important to her, apparently. What we're doing next is we're going to ask 6 questions, and I'm going to pull one card from each of these decks: the Angels and Ancestors Oracle cards and the Bonestone and Earthflesh Tarot. And I have already shuffled and pulled the card for each question. They are on top in order here on the deck. So this section should go by much more quickly. In whom or what did I place my faith? And for this card, Shandi had, or Ophelia, she had her faith. She was a heart guardian. See, we get that word again. We get the word guardian again. So I think the Spirit is definitely confirming that guardian was an important word in her personal sense of values and her viewpoint. So heart guardian, and it says love and let yourself be loved. So she placed her faith in love and in her own heart. Then from the tarot for the same question, in whom or what did she place her faith? And we get the sovereign self, 6 of Wands. So the sovereign self. And here, love and let yourself be loved. She had a lot of faith in herself and her own connection to the divine. How did I communicate with the divine? And from this deck, we got Sage. Be devoted and committed. Now that fits in here with the ascetic card. She was very devoted. So she was devoted and committed to her belief system and followed her path very carefully. How else did she communicate with the divine? Get Lady of Leaves, Empress. She communed with nature and created. Empress is a creator, and Ophelia felt in connection with the divine when she was creating things and when she was in touch with nature. This is why she cared about animals so much and why she was involved with art, because it helped her to feel that sense of creation, and nature helped her to feel in touch with the divine. How important was my faith to me? We get the star ancestor. Follow the voice of your soul. So it was deeply, Ophelia's faith was deeply important to her. She felt it was the voice of her soul. Oak guardian. We get the word guardian again. Yeah, you can't make it up. It's just crazy. World. It meant the world to her. Her faith meant the world to her. It was the beginning and ending of everything in her life. It was everything to her. What feelings did my faith inspire in me? Spring. See your seeds grow. Feelings that faith inspired in Ophelia was hope and optimism, joy. And then we get kindred spirits, 2 of Cups. It was deep devotion and love. Those were other emotions that faith inspired within Ophelia as well. How did my beliefs shape actions and my way of living? Wise one. Grow within your current situation. Your faith, you used your faith in order to handle anything that you were going through. You used it as your source of intuition, the connection to the divine. Grow within your current situation. You went through an awful lot, it sounds like, with the imprisonment, with going through the war, with trying to heal others, with caring for animals, witnessing the rise of wealth around you, being imprisoned. I mean, all of that stuff, witnessing that execution, you used your faith to shape your actions and your way of living and turn you into a wise person. You were known as by the people around you. You were known as the law. You were known as the sage, as a mystic. Definitely did not just color who you felt like you were, but who you actually were and displayed yourself as in your community. And same question from this deck. Three of Pentacles. So you used your beliefs shaped who you were in your community. It turned you into a teacher and an example around you. You used every opportunity to share and to give with others and manage reciprocity with your relationships in your community. And we think you may have been some kind of a teacher with that Eight of Pentacles. In the last reading, you had that Eight of Pentacles along with the museum thing coming up. So you may have been some kind of a teacher. For what purposes did I use my faith? We get the word guardian again. Guardian angel. You are not alone. You used your faith to help you to feel connected with your angels and ancestors, with your spirit guides, with the God of your understanding, with your own soul. Your faith helped you to feel connected and protected and inspired. You used it for everything. And then here we get strength. And that's not the first time we've gotten the strength card. We got that in the location one as well. You used your faith in order to help you to remain strong during all the trials that you went through. So that is the faith section. Now we are going to, then I'm going to end it here, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to do the love section. So stay tuned. Welcome back. Now we are on to the section on love. In the Past Life Oracle deck, I pulled these while I was waiting for my last video to load. And for the love section, you got arranged marriage. So you experienced an arranged marriage, which is probably not uncommon for that time frame. And especially being in the South. I don't know how often that happened, but I've read novels set in that time frame, and so it seemed to be a theme. And then some of the clarifying cards about your life during that time frame. We had nature worship and pantheism. So you saw the divine in pretty much everything, and especially in nature. And then we also got this same card again, charity with Good Samaritan at the top. So that was another important aspect of love for you. You found love within nature, and you also felt love by helping others and, being involved in charity. And then the final card where you had something to do with love, we get peacemaker and other. And so, the other options are diplomat, mediator, and pacifist. And I think that with you and the things that we've learned about you, you worked hard to help heal the people around you. We're also deeply involved with animals and nature, and you were trying to bring peace to those around you through those means. Now we are going to pull one card from each of these decks for the following six questions. The first question is, how is love shown to me? How is love shown to me? And the first answer we get is animal guardian. Yeah. You felt love deeply through your experience with animals, and name guardian comes up again. So we got that. And then we also get feed the birds, Six of Pentacles. So Six of Pentacles is about giving and receiving. It's a card of reciprocity. It is also showing kindness to animals again, which has been an ongoing theme throughout this entire reading. Yes, it's very much about giving and receiving. Was how you felt love, was by being able to give to others and and receiving help from others made you feel loved. How else was love shown to her? Okay, we get this card. This is the third time that we've gotten this card, and it is a number 33. So we've gotten this card 3 times, and so 3 is an important number here, and it is also a card of reciprocity. There is giving in receiving and receiving in giving. Sharing was important to you. Reciprocity was of utmost importance to you, and it made you feel loved. And love was also shown to you through death and rebirth. You understood the cycle, the endings and beginnings. Because you were deeply involved with animals, you probably saw and witnessed the ends and beginnings of many lives, and you understood the cycle of life. That connection to the eternal was important to you. We've got the symbols here as the egg and the snake representing the Ouroboros, eternal life. And you see this baby within this egg. Got these skulls representing the death, and then this baby here in the egg, and then the Ouroboros. This is eternity. You understood that death and rebirth was part of eternity, and being connected to that cycle made you feel loved by the divine. Okay, now I only was able to select one card during the upload process on the last video, so I did shuffle the decks, but I didn't get to select more than one card for each deck, so I will cut the deck for each of these next questions. How did I learn to give and receive love? How did Ophelia learn to give and receive love? Stargazer, set your sights higher. So somebody in your life taught you about the heavens. Somebody spent time explaining to you that having lofty goals was important, and that time that you had with that teacher, whether that was a parent or a teacher or some other important person in your life, that taught you a lot about how to give and receive love. You learned then that to impart knowledge was a way of showing love to other people. Okay, and how did Ophelia learn to give and receive love? Get the 6 of Wands again, the sovereign self. You learned a lot from yourself. You had a deep connection to yourself and your own sovereignty, and you had a deep connection to the divine. And so you learned a lot from yourself and your own wanderings and wonderings. You were able to connect the dots of the things that you'd been taught, and so you were able to teach yourself many things. How did I learn to give and receive love? Circles. Clarity begins in the eye of the storm. Let's look this one up. First of all, I can see where a social circle definitely probably taught you things. And the circle of life here, captured before in this card, but the circle of life here we see a crone and possibly a mother and some children. Also the connection to nature and to the animals. You can see them, they are holding hands in a circle. So we can see the symbolism here, but let me see what else is in this guidebook. This one talks about downward spirals and downward circles, being stuck in a rut and that kind of thing, and how clarity is very important. You have to, when you're in that, you need to have that clarity. And how did I learn to give and receive love? So, but I'm not getting that intuitively. With this an intuitive read on this card, I'm getting that you were able to learn to give and receive love by being in a familial circle and social circle, and a circle and enjoying and observing the circle of life and nature and weather and animals around you. That's where you found your clarity in love. Okay, and then in this one, how did you learn to give and receive love? It's the Ace of Wands. Well, it's the Ace of Fire. This deck, it's not Rider-Waite. New beginnings, initiative, action, conception, invention, creation, creativity. See? Creativity, creation, invention, new beginnings, all of that taught you a great deal about love. The next question is, how did I express my love to others? Arrow. Surround yourself with protective energy. You had boundaries. You protected yourself. You protected your heart. What else does this say? You surrounded yourself with positive people and experiences and environments that made you feel safe. Called on your angels, guides, and ancestors to bring you protection. So that was how you expressed your love to others, was by making sure that you had positive people around you to begin with so that you could. You understood that not everybody had the same intentions as you did, and that didn't mean that people were intentionally wanting to hurt you, but that they could be careless in their choices and actions, and that could affect you. So you were really careful to protect yourself. So you might have protected that we talked earlier a few sessions back about you having a hard time with showing your vulnerabilities. So that could be part of that. How did Ophelia express her love to others? Community. 10 of Pentacles. You shared your resources with others and you lived in community. Acts of service that was your favorite way to show love to other people, was an act of service. How did you express love to others? How did you express love to others? Emotional energy. Emotions are messengers to be met with appropriate attention, action, and gratitude. You shared your emotional energy with other people. You might not have shared your own emotions with other people, but you shared your emotional energy with other people and followed it up with action. Was that concept here with the act of service. Okay. How did Ophelia express love to others? 3 of Air, you expressed love to others through learning. You felt it was important to learn and develop your knowledge, and that was one of your acts of service that you took on in order to be able to express love to other people and to your community in particular. What was Ophelia's love life like overall? It was steady. It was wise. It was caring. And it grew over time. It grew over time. It became more and more solid and steady as time went on. You grew within your current situation. What was Ophelia's love life like overall? Star. It helped you to fulfill your wishes. That's wonderful. These ones were not supposed to be turned over. Okay. What was Ophelia's love life like overall? I love this card. This card is repair, making amends rather than fun times. Reveals a relationship's true constitution. So over time, your love life, you and your spouse were able to make amends with each other. We were able to sit quietly and repair the issues that arose during your time together. This shows this older couple sitting here in their rocking chairs, mending their marriage blanket. They're sitting there quietly, working on their own part own part that they tore asunder. I screwed up here. I'm mending this here. Well, I screwed up here and I'm mending this over here. And together they're going to stitch us back together. Their marriage blanket will be whole again. And they have spent their lives together doing that, making amends and finding value in accountability rather than just having fun. What was your love life like overall? What else? One more thing. What was your love life like overall? This one we get the youth. This is the number 3 card. What does this mean? This deck confounds me, I swear. The youth. Keywords are adventure, new horizons, excitement, independence, freedom, rebellion, impulsiveness, loyalty, and compromise. So your love life overall, you had times of adventure, you had times of compromise, times of loyalty. There was a lot of independence. We've seen a lot of cards over the course of this long reading that have indicated that you were very fiercely independent, and that freedom was really important to you. However, that also fed into your relationship as well. It didn't inhibit your love life. It actually added to it. You embraced your individuality while at the same time as being in this marriage relationship. Okay, let's move on to the next question. How did love shape Ophelia's choices in her path? Spring, let your seeds grow. So perhaps you had children. See your seeds grow. Let's use my pendulum. I don't think there are questions in here about this. Okay, Spirit, did Ophelia have children? Yes. Okay, let's see. How many children did she have? How many children did Ophelia have? 7. We get 7. Let's ask for confirmation. Is this the correct number of children that Ophelia had, Spirit? I am not getting an answer. Can you answer how many children she had? Did I clarify how many living children did she have? Okay, did she have 7 children that lived? Okay, yes. Did she have children who passed away before for before school age? Did she have children that passed away before school age? No. Did she have children who passed away later? Yes. More than one? Well, I'm going to leave it there. She did have children. She had 7 children that lived. Okay. So, let me see. So that was the seeds. How did love shape her choices and path? How did love shape her choices and path? The Wheel of Fortune. You saw changes come and go. You rolled with them. How did love shape Ophelia's choices and path? Love shape Ophelia's choices and path. You learned over time to how to ask for help and accept help in order to receive it. And you would not have ever done that if it hadn't been for love. How did love shape Ophelia's choices and path? How did love shape her choices and path? 2 of Air. You knew that, love helped you to balance things out. You knew that life was all about choices, and you used love every time as something to help you tip the scales one way or the other. Okay, for what kind of love did your soul most long? What did you long for? What kind of love did you long for? Star Ancestor, follow the voice of your soul. You wanted a soulmate. And you had an arranged marriage. And it was probably, it from the other cards that we've gotten, it seemed like it was happy and successful, but it might not have been a soulmate. For what kind of love did your soul most long? 7 of Cups. You had illusions about what that soulmate would look like. You had somebody who did this with you. You had an arranged marriage, and it lasted a long time, and you had many children together, and this person did this with you, was accountable, and helped to repair things as needed. But you were thinking that it should be some pie in the sky kind of illusion. Looks like my phone's going to die here. So I'm going to cut this very quickly. I think we have 2 more cards here, and then we'll end it. What kind of love did your soul most long for? The spirit self. Be who you are as you are. You wanted to really be authentic with somebody, and you didn't feel like you could do that with the person you were married to. Last one. What kind of love did your soul most long for? For birth. You wanted stability. You wanted stability and structure, and you had it. I think you had it. But you thought it should look like this. Okay, so that's that. We are done with this section, and we will be back with another section shortly. The next one will be on trauma. And we are back, and this time I'm hoping that I'll be able to wrap everything up in the next recording session, but it is very late, so we'll see how long I can go. We have a few more phases left. We have the trauma section, which is what we're doing next. And I have, for all of the rest of the phases, I have already pulled all of the cards. They're all laid out and ready to flip over. So that eliminates all of the shuffling, and so it should hopefully go by fairly quickly. For trauma, We'll use the past life oracle to talk about what kind of trauma you had or recovery from, but there at some point during your life you experienced a period of famine. This was exacerbated by the fact that you were evidently vegetarian, which was probably very uncommon back then, but with your affinity toward animals, I'm not surprised. Another thing that was a problem for you that wound up being trauma was that you were well informed, and I took that to be for that period of time where you witnessed the execution, then you, because of what you saw, and that in and of itself can be very traumatic, but then you also wound up paying a little bit of a price for it because you were briefly imprisoned, I believe, but subsequently released. And then another issue was slander. You suffered some people slandering you and your reputation, and so these were some traumatic events that you dealt with during your lifetime. One of the shadows that resulted as from that trauma was that you had grudges. You held grudges against certain people. So that was one of the shadows that you had to work with. And holding grudges, you eventually learned that only you suffer from that. And then the other issue was the emotional landscape that this trauma provided for you was one of darkness. And darkness says that you were in danger, you were vigilant, and you were in a vulnerable state. You lost your bearings, clear paths are lost, pitfalls are unseen, creatures of the night could be around and we could be unaware. When light fades from our senses, we are exposed. Unknown things creep up in the dark. The darkness finds us at a moment of blindness to possible dangers. It's time to sit tight and wait it out. Find shelter, guard yourself, and wait for the daylight to return, which is what you must have done, because I think this period of time in your life was relatively brief. What was the nature or essence of this trauma? And we got inner trust. So there was a period of time where when you went through this trauma, and there were a few different traumas, obviously. So there was the trauma of slander, there was the trauma of famine, and one of having witnessed that death in such a way that you wound up imprisoned yourself. There were periods of time where you questioned your own inner trust, and that was definitely traumatic for you. And then from the Somnia Tarot, we get the King of Swords. The nature, essence of this trauma, this I think was related to having witnessed that death, because the King of Swords is one who he's seen the truth and he knows what happened. And the essence of that trauma is that you knew what happened. You saw the truth. From the Lantern Oracle, we get consciousness is light. You were aware of what happened, and you could not turn light off of what you saw. And we have the 10 of fire, and so this is heavy burdens that you had to carry as a result of all of this. Okay, so we'll move on to the next question. How did this trauma affect me and shape the story of my life? Release the dark wound and let love live. Now, you got this card before one time, but this was, in this particular case, dealing with the trauma, you learned to release the wound and let love live. You learned to move past it. You learned that holding on to it was not going to be of a benefit to you. You also very much valued stability, and I think this is related to the famine. is that you valued financial stability. Prosperity was not even on your radar most of the time because you just wanted to have enough. Misalignment. Miracles become normal once we face all of the aspects of our life in the same direction. So there was a period of time during some of these traumas that you fell out of alignment with who you were as a person, and getting back into alignment was important to you because miracles became normal once you were able to face everything and get everything in order. And then we have the Nine of Fire. You learn to develop that resiliency and sticking it out, but it was a heavy burden. Okay. Moving on to the next prompt. It says, how did I cope with or respond to this trauma? You learned to ask yourself, what do you feel? You started to acknowledge your own feelings. You juggled all of the things that you were responsible for, and it looks like you were juggling your spiritual knowledge and earthly concerns, represented by the apple and the orange. What do you feel? And the devil. The devil is about confronting toxicities and obsessions, confronting your own appetite for things, and confronting your shadow. You know, you were able to do your shadow work. That's how you coped. And forgiveness. Hurt blocks our light. So you learn to forgive for yourself so that you could feel that divine light back in again, rather than being mad at the people who slandered you or carrying anger over the things that you'd witnessed. Intuition. You coped with your trauma by developing your intuition and focusing in on your intuition. The next question is, upon which inner resources did I call to survive this trauma? Beyond the mind, the heart beats. You leaned into your feelings. You focused in on your heart. And love. Love was a huge resource for you to help you get through things. Death. You've gotten this card before too. The inner resource that you called on to survive trauma. You recognized that everything was every ending was a beginning, and you leaned into the knowledge of beginnings and endings going hand in hand. Home. May your body be where harmonious balance of love, strength, light, and pleasure lives. So your inner resource that you called on to survive your trauma as you sank very much into your body and the present moment, and reminded yourself, I'm safe right here. And destiny. You understood your destiny, and you understood what you were there on Earth to do, and you leaned into that. Okay. The next question, how did this trauma awaken shadow aspects within me? The word wants to be written. What does that mean? The word wants to be written. talking about leaning into your creativity in order to deal with issues. This trauma awakens shadow aspects within you. Strength. Got the strength card again. This one looks more like a shadow strength. Like you leaned into the strength that you had rather than displaying any vulnerabilities or asking for help. Presence of absence. Hold what is absent in the presence of your love. We know from the reading before that you had lost at least one child, and so you had that grief that you were carrying around. And Queen of Fire. This is a very bold and confident and very independent queen. She's a real boss. You wanted to handle it yourself. You didn't want to ask for help. Okay, what hidden gift or wisdom lies buried within as a result of my experience? Hidden gift or wisdom. Okay, we get inspiration. That's lovely. Your experiences helped you to rely on your faith and seek that inspiration. And you became inspired by the things that were around you, even if they were small, things like bees and flowers. Temperance. It's a hidden gift or wisdom. And I think temperance probably came as a result of, having to deal with famine and then trying to recover from that. Assistance with access. Okay, here we are. This is where you learn to ask for help. It is necessary to ask for and accept help in order to receive it. So that was one of the gifts that came along to you. And the King of Water. You learned emotional resilience. You learned emotional mastery and that inspiration as well. Intuition. Okay. Now we have the next section is we're talking about death, what happened as far as your death goes. And the cards that we get here are you died in childbirth while giving birth to one of your children, must have been your 7th child, unless there was an 8th pregnancy and you both died. I didn't get any information on that, but you died in childbirth. You had, and before that, you had also had near-death experiences. So I think you may have been afraid of losing your life during childbirth because this popped up with it. And then this card here says fertility. Fertility was the very fact of how fertile you were led to your demise. So we're going to talk more about the death now. What surrounded or influenced the circumstances of my death? And we get free from judgment, free to love. So when you passed away, you knew you were free from judgment. You were free to love fully because you didn't have any earthly concerns anymore. But then you get the judgment card. After you pass away, that life review that is spoken of. But I think that you had a compassionate life review based on that image. Enough. You were born enough. So we get this image here where you'd had enough. You were ready. You were ready to transcend and become an angel. You'd had enough of life. And the Four of Earth, so this is that theme that we're seeing, and we've seen this a few times in your readings, is that you wanted stability and safety and structure, and that influenced the circumstances of your death somehow. Okay, so I wanted to talk about any shadow related to the death. We have the orphan. Yeah. So the orphan experience brings empathy. You weren't the orphan. You died during childbirth, so you left an orphan. And that gave you a lot of empathy for that child. You hated to leave that baby behind. So it wasn't an eighth child that passed away. This was during that seventh pregnancy. And then the emotional landscape was eruption. So this could have been some kind of physical event that happened during the childbirth, like, I don't know, ruptured uterus or something, or hemorrhaging, some kind of an eruption. That is like more of a literal translation of this card, but if it was related to the emotional landscape, you can see that your children and your spouse would have been they would have erupted in emotion over having lost you. Now, next question. What were your last moments like at the end of this past life? Pandora's gift. I wonder what that means. I mean, I know what Pandora's box is, but what do they mean by Pandora's gift? Maybe something you didn't know you wanted to open, but you were stunned and amazed by it. Pandora is all gifted and all giving. Her presence invites you to forego your belief in judgment. Now is the time to surrender the misplaced guilt that you may have brought upon yourself or another. It is time to let go of the shame-based belief in punishment. This is a belief that you deserve to be brought to task over any perceived imperfection, or that your natural human journey somehow renders you inadequate. Pandora frees the soul from such torment. So it was a gift. Of course, you didn't want to leave that life, but you were freed from judgment, and it was expressed to you that it was the sign of a new time for your soul. The last moments were like a priestess. So you were very much in tune with the divine at that moment. You knew where you were going and what was happening. You were aware. Creative power. Release your alchemical energy into the world. It shows this woman who's pregnant. You're feeling the full force of your creative power that last moment when you passed away, bringing another person into life. And the Queen of Earth. You were a mother. You knew you were a mother. You knew you were fertile. You knew you were abundant. You could feel it, you know. Okay. So now the next question is, what remained unresolved as I left this life? Diving for light. I wonder what that means. Diving for light. The Oracle of Diving for Light speaks of a time when you are called into darkness through life circumstances, situations, relationship challenges, or inner struggles that defy clear understanding. You were trying to find light in everything that you could. And couldn't be resolved because you were leaving this world. Hadn't quite learned how to do that yet. Tried. You strove for it. You hadn't had a chance to do it to the fullest extent that you wanted to learn before you passed away. King of Coins. So, prosperity, familial inheritance, and wealth had not been built up to the point that you wanted it to when you left. You felt like you were leaving family and your husband in particular in a difficult situation by passing away. Critical self-love. We can only receive love to the extent that we can unconditionally love and live the truth of ourselves. You hadn't quite learned how to radically love yourself before you passed. Death and rebirth remained unresolved as you left this life. Alrighty, the next prompt is the essence of my legacy. The essence of your legacy was faith in the process. You had a deep and abiding faith. Another animal with you, animals, birds. You had a deep and abiding faith in things, and everybody knew that you did, and that was your legacy. Thing you were remembered for. Sun brought sunshine to people's lives, expansion and growth and happiness to the people around you. So that was part of your legacy. Your inner life is a garden to be cultivated. People around you knew that it was something that you worked on. That was part of your legacy as well. Your faith. Your faith was part of your legacy. A huge part of your legacy is Ophelia. Okay. Next up is, how did I release myself from my physical vessel to join the ancestors? Legacy of light. This. Mother, and there's a child. An ancestor. Wow. Amazing. Oh, you were sad. But eventually you turned around and saw what you were going to. You were sad about leaving your baby. Emptied. The ending and beginning lie either side of the same door. You left as the maiden. There's a lot of belief systems hold the idea that when you leave this earth, you go back to being in your prime, where whatever your prime was. Look, the maiden, she has this bunny rabbit signaling her fertility. You were leaving as you were giving birth, and on the other side of the veil, you were transformed back into your most vital self. So, wow. Okay, the next question is, what impact did this death leave on our shared soul? On the shared soul between Ophelia and Shandi, what impact did that death leave? Focus on the light was the impact between the two of you. Your soul. learned how important it was to focus on the light. Your soul learned that it is important to be psychic and intuitive and in touch with the divine and in touch with your own emotions and the emotions of those around you. Your soul have all of the inner resources you need to cross whatever bridges arise on your path. Your soul learned that lesson through this passing. And love was the impact of this death on your soul. Now we're going to talk about the lesson of your life, of this life, this particular life. And the lessons were self-identity. These all three all just came out together. Self-identity, self-love, peace. Those were the lessons of your life. What wisdom did you carry forward? Trust yourself. Oh, amazing. Trust yourself. Queen of Wands. Be bold and confident and action-oriented. To be a boss. Acknowledge, assert, and protect what is right for you. Strong boundaries. And then wisdom. What wisdom did I carry forward? Wisdom. Wisdom itself. Okay. And then the next question. What energies or themes are repeating for me now in my current incarnation? Follow your own rhythm. To learn the lesson of following your own rhythm and not those around you. Take care of yourself. Rest when you need it. Four of Swords. Rest, retreat, rejuvenate, recover. Emotional energy. Emotions are messengers to be met with appropriate attention, action, and gratitude. That's a theme that is repeating for you now in your current life. And Queen of Earth. Independence. Independence, building wealth over time, contentment. Wow, that's great. Next question. How does this past parallel life continue to influence my growth? We're moving on to a few other decks now. And you get Medicine Wheel, continuation. Medicine Wheel. Let's look that one up. Medicine Wheel circles around you as you step within its sacred space and feel part of the continuation of life. Life is a circle. What goes around comes around. When you can accept this, you are more able to learn from each situation you encounter and can move forward. Allow Medicine Wheel to cement your personal philosophy and beliefs as you offer it your prayers and intentions. Medicine Wheel gives you access to the energies of the four cardinal directions, the spirits of the land, crystals, stones, and anything else you wish to place within it. So you can either build your own medicine wheel on the land, or you can just imagine a piece of land that is sacred to you and picture yourself building a personal medicine wheel on it. It's a shamanic map representing your life, a circle of awareness, and the wheel of the year. Walk within the wheel. Your direction will align with the great powers of spirit. So This past parallel life continued to influence my growth. Four of Swords again. Gotta take care of yourself. You gotta rest. Crow in the Dogwood. Intelligence. We got this card earlier. Seeking intelligence. And learning new things. The Maga of Shells. So this is like the Queen of Pentacles. Believer. Next prompt is, what parts of this past parallel life journey are still seeking resolution through me? Error. Creativity. Your soul is still urging you to be creative. Temperance. Your soul wants you to balance things and turn whatever it is that you get in your life into something good, to alchemize it. Quail and the Gooseberry. Anticipation. Your soul wants you to look forward to things, be excited about stuff. And the Four of Pentacles. Your soul still craves stability, still wants safety, structure, and enough. What patterns or challenges am I still learning to transmute? Offerings and wealth. You're still learning how to manage wealth, how to build wealth, what it can do for you, and what it can't. Fool. You're still learning to transmute those beginnings, those new beginnings into great new life lessons. The Porcupine and Anemone. Boundaries. This is one of those that you are learning to transmute. You've learned over eons of time to build up boundaries around yourself, and having to take some of them down and allow vulnerability. That's something that it's a continued pattern. And the Five of Wands is conflict, managing conflict in a way that you don't have to burn things down to the ground when it doesn't have to be a scorched earth moment when you have a conflict. Okay. What karmic burdens were released or dissolved through this past incarnation? Sure. Had a karmic burden of feeling like you needed to nurture everything and everyone and everything. Many children and all of that. That karmic burden was released during that life. Of Cups again. You learned this lesson karmically, and you learned to accept what the universe was freely giving you. Guardianship. The burden of guardianship, that cosmic, karmic burden we saw over and over and over again of being a guardian, was released, dissolved through your past life. And 2 4 cups. That 4 cups and this 4 cups. You don't have to carry that karma of being sad about the 3 cups. You can freely, willingly accept 4th cup. You can try again. in the hollow, and Sage, the sacred path to wisdom. The past parallel life continues to influence your growth through the sacred path to wisdom, and kind of a shadow. This is a shadow card, and it's a card of feeling like you have to be the sage. It is the sacred path to wisdom. It is, but you can be human too. And then the hollow. What does the hollow mean? I mean, I know what the hollow is, but let's see what the book says. Comfort, a settling into, a hermitage. A hollow is a small valley between two mountain ridges. Your past life continues to influence your growth through being comfortable, settling in, finding a place where you can be. Hollow card comes at a time when a settling down is needed, a turning inward toward the feelings, places, and people you call home. That's influencing your growth because you have that desire for that place that you can call home, to be settled into. Okay, now we are almost done. The final message. What gift from this past life do I embody in my current incarnation? The gifts that you, from your past life, you embody in your current incarnation. Healing. The gift of healing. We have be the light. I love that. We have courage. Purpose. I know what I'm here to do. Some great gifts that you got from that past life. Our next set of cards are from the Wild Unknown Alchemy deck. This card is you. This one is Ophelia. This is your lesson. This is Ophelia's lesson. And this is the union of the two of your soul. We have Splendor Solace, the sun's splendor. You, that represents you. Nice. There's that card. It's right here. And your lesson, well, we're supposed to go this way first. Then we go to Ophelia. He had the peacock's tail. I'll look that up so I know what that means. Your lesson was breath, being in the moment, alchemizing, air that you're breathing into, the things that you need, your body needs, and then giving back to the plants around you with your breath, and vice versa. And Ophelia's lesson was spring. And then your union is gold. Wow. Okay, let's look these up. Wish me luck on finding these because they're Roman numerals. L3. Okay. So yours, it says generosity, health, and abundance. Revel in the glory of Splendor Solace. There are several cards in this deck that relate to the sun, yet this one specifically depicts the long-term effects of its radiance. Think of abundance, fulfillment, and altruism. Celebration, collaboration. When this card arrives, the alchemist realizes that kindness and generosity are the secret ingredient. All other paths fall away. Through giving back to others in the world, we become more like the sun itself, radiant light and expecting nothing in return. So that is you. And then the peacock's tail for Ophelia. Those are really close together in this book. This says full vision, the spectrum, inclusivity. The peacock's tail is a sacred image in alchemy. The mesmerizing display of tail feathers opens to mark the alchemist having shifted from single to multi-perspective. Well, that's amazing. Because she's passed on, so she can see more than we can see. It's a great achievement. The alchemist has opened 1,000 sets of eyes instead of one, discarded black and white thinking, and allowed the full spectrum of colors, nuances, and solutions to come into the fold. Creative solutions to complex social and political polarities can be found in this sacred space. It's cool. All right, let's go back here to the breath. The breath means inspiration, presence, and life force. There's no more direct way to practice alchemy than to study pneuma. We all have access to the mystical phenomenon known as the breath. It occurs at every moment, gracing us with the gift of existence upon the physical plane. If alchemy, as is suggested in this book, is the merging of physical and mystical, then this card serves as the ever-reliant bridge. It is the magical within us, the expanding and generating life force that animates our life. This card may appear simple, but it is not. No matter how advanced you are in studying the breath, if you heed the message of this card, you will find it has more to teach. Bow to it at this very moment, and you will discover the work revitalizes itself. New space opens. Pneuma is your lifelong alchemical ally, stating its love with every inhale and exhale. All right, and then for Ophelia's lesson, it was spring, blossoming, becoming, and the horizon. When spring arrives, our eyes lift from the work and we peer out the window of our laboratory. We realize Earth has been in its own transformational spin, readying itself for a new era of growth. In a state of wonder, the alchemist sets aside the work of winter and opens the door, stepping into spring. This card arrives, it indicates a blossoming, a coming into one's own. It's generation time. You may be dreaming up a business plan, humming a new melody, or flirting with a special someone. Spring is the season of the east where the sun rises and lights the world. You do not have to work on anything during this phase. Let the energy of the season push through. You made it through winter and the bulbs burst on their own. So Ophelia just needs to enjoy it. All right, and then your union of your two life experiences, your one soul, is gold, illumination, splendor, culmination. It's no ordinary gold. It is not found in rings or coins or necklaces. It's a substance buried deep within, sometimes referred to as the gold of the wise, philosophic gold, the ethereal stone, or the divine quintessence, among countless other names. For our purposes, we seek not the physical metal, but the mystical essence within each alchemist. How do we recognize it? Qualities of the metal itself, soft and radiant, and its planetary counterpart, the sun, warm and bright. No wonder gold is associated with the heart. This card arrives, there's something incredible value at hand. It's marvelous and rare. Cherish it. Get to know its properties and its source. Reverence is the key. Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so then our last two cards. What guidance does Ophelia have for you? What's her advice to you for your current life? And we get an animal card and a wisdom keeper's card. However, two doubt for both of these. For the animal guidance cards, we get rhinoceros and the hedgehog. How cute. We'll look those up. Ground yourself in the present. The rhinoceros symbolizes strength, resilience, and tenacity. Unwavering solidity offers support to pursue your destiny while banishing doubt and fear. Harness its qualities to navigate your path forward with confidence. And the hedgehog says, establish healthy boundaries. Symbolizing the importance of protecting personal space, the hedgehog's spines represent inner strength. Following the hedgehog's example, you can create boundaries that protect your well-being while allowing confident interaction with the world. Establish the limits you need to sustain yourself through life's ups and downs. These are both advice from Ophelia to you. And then from the Wisdom Keepers, we get 2 cards. And we have aspiration and resourcefulness. These are also advice from Ophelia. Aspiration says, look long and hard at the ways you're still driven by fear, competition, and the desire to serve yourself. I come when it is time to start thinking about how to serve others and how to join forces in order to create a healthier, more sustainable world. Call out your inner Robin Hood. Start giving back holistically. Find creative ways to more justly redistribute the resources on our planet. If you don't have money, donate time, energy, wisdom, and love. Remember, if you've been holding on to what you've got, it's a good time to let it go. If you've been resisting others' generosity, it's a good time to receive. Keep it flowing, and all will thrive. That's good. Eat the rich. Okay, so 48 says, resourcefulness says, do not hide from the well of darkness within you, for there is light and boundless riches at the bottom of the well. You can find elegant solutions to all of life's challenges and just the right support when you need it most. But first, you must reassure your body that it is safe even when you don't have all the answers. Let the parent in you love and hold the child within, even in the presence of fear. Over time, you will spontaneously dive into the void and discover more warmth there than you ever expected. Trust your inner knowing, and the people around you will start dipping into your well and drawing out more resourcefulness and wisdom than you realize you had. You are far more adequate than you could possibly imagine. So those are your pieces of advice from Ophelia to you, and that is your past life reading. And I hope you enjoyed this. Please give it a thumbs up, because this took me countless hours to do. And I have all of the prompts listed in the description below, all of the decks used in the description below, and there are timestamps in the description below. So I hope you enjoyed this Shandi, and anybody else who wanted to watch it. I plan on doing another one for my wife as well, and then I probably will never do this again. It took so long. I mean, it was fascinating. It was a really fun, super fun process. So I also thank Amber at Psychopomp of the Void for teaching this to me. She learned it from Shell and Amethyst Ascension, so I thank both of them, and they will be linked below as well. Thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful day whenever you see this, and take care.